every hero action figure needs a bad guy to fight. So let's look at the time G.I. Joe had to fight alien cavemen. Welcome back to the Junkman, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with another video, and I'm going to tell you about some G.I. Joe. And as I said before, I'm not an expert on G.I. Joe by far. I didn't have any G.I. Joe growing up. I was more into He-Man and, of course, Star Wars, and I just didn't have G.I. Joe. But my brother did have a G.I. Joe in the 70s. It was one of those that had the realistic hair and beard. I love that. I used to rub and play with that hair all the time. Even if I wasn't playing with G.I. Joe, you could catch me rubbing that hair somewhere on my body. I just loved, what was that hair made out of? My brother used to tell me that they took them off dead dogs. I didn't care. I still just loved touching that hair. It was so odd feeling. Anyway, G.I. Joe was huge in the 60s, of course. Every boy in the 60s had G.I. Joe toys. But by 1968, sales of G.I. Joe toys tanked. Why was that? Well, mostly probably because of the Vietnam War. I mean, there was a real war going on, and it was making headlines. It was the most talked about thing on the news. You had Vietnam protesters, and it seems like the whole country was losing support for the war. So you can understand why parents probably didn't want to buy military action figures for their kids. So in 1968, sales of G.I. Joe action figures tanked. But don't worry, Hasbro didn't want to give up. So in 1971, they relaunched the line with the Adventure Team. This was a new G.I. Joe action figure line. Although it looked a lot like the ones from the 60s, they did update them a little bit. Gave them that realistic hair and beard that I talked about. And the military side of G.I. Joe kind of disappeared. In fact, even the dog tags that came with G.I. Joe were now placed with the Adventure Team logo that looked a lot like a peace symbol. And instead of the military outfit, G.I. Joe had different outfits now, like G.I. Joe in mountain gear, G.I. Joe in ocean gear, G.I. Joe in jungle gear, desert gear. There was all kind of clothes for G.I. Joe. And in 1972, with the release of the second series of Adventure Team, Hasbro saw the biggest sale of G.I. Joe toys in history. So it seems G.I. Joe was back. But then Hasbro and G.I. Joe had to face a great villain. Two of them. One called Migo and the other one called Kenner. Migo was starting to have a huge success in the toy aisle with their superhero line of action figures. And Kenner was having huge success with the $6 Million Man line. Hasbro knew kids were starting to get away from military-type action figures, and they wanted superheroes or bionic heroes. They wanted something that just wasn't normal human people playing in the jungle. So to capture back some of those sales they were losing thanks to Migo and Kenner, Hasbro decided to add some super to the Adventure Team line. In fact, they even added the name. At least in promoting the line, they called them the Super Adventure Team. And it's clear from this line they wanted to take in some of that science fiction superhero money. One of the figures added to the line was Bullet Man. Yes, right, he was half bullet, half man. This is very strange and silly looking, at least by today's standards. But as you can see, they wanted to capture kids that wanted a superhero figure. And they got it with Bullet Man. Now, not only did they need a superhero character, they needed a character that was kind of bionic to go after the $6 Million Man line. And what did they release? Atomic Man, or his real name, Mike Power. As you can see, this is clearly a $6 Million Man ripoff. It's so close to $6 Million Man, it's surprising Kenner didn't sue Hasbro. So G.I. Joe now had a superhero to hang out with and a bionic man to hang out with. But G.I. Joe needed something the other toy lines had, and they didn't. A villain. That's right, G.I. Joe didn't really have a villain. Sure, he would go up against forces of nature, or he would go up against jungle animals, but they needed a more serious villain, and they got two of them with the Intruders. Who are the Intruders? Well, according to the package, they're the strongest men from another world. Now, they might look like strange, crazy cavemen, but according to the story, they were high in intelligence. But finally, G.I. Joe had their villain. There was two different ones. The leader of the group had a beard and gold armor, and the other didn't have a beard and had silver armor. Finally, G.I. Joe had some villains to fight against. Cavemen aliens. I don't know about you, but they just look really strange to me, and when I saw these, this is why I wanted to make the video, because they just look so odd. They don't look like G.I. Joe toys. If I saw them out of the package, I wouldn't even know they were G.I. Joe. I wouldn't know what they were. Look like something Remco would make. But here they are, the alien cavemen to battle G.I. Joe. Now, they did come with a button on their back. By pressing it, they could grab stuff with their arms. That was a nice little play feature, but again, they just didn't fit in with G.I. Joe. Now, I've been told that these intruders are the Jar Jar Binks of the G.I. Joe line. I don't know. That's what I heard. Again, I wasn't really into G.I. Joe, so if I'm wrong about that, let me know. But I never heard anyone talk about these. Maybe you do. But adding these villains, adding these superheroes, adding the Bionic Man didn't really help. And by the end of 1976, Hasbro canceled the G.I. Joe line. Well, they did try to retool G.I. Joe again the following year with the Super Joe Adventure Team. Now, G.I. Joe was fighting space aliens. But that line failed in 1978. And I think it warrants its own video. But I know you're thinking, hey, Snake Eyes is the original villain of G.I. Joe. Nope, it's an alien caveman. Anyway, I thought these would be kind of fun to take a look at. I didn't know about these until I was just messing around the internet and saw them. And I was like, hey, that's G.I. Joe? It doesn't look like G.I. Joe. And I had to dig more into it. Now, again, I don't know G.I. Joe, so I probably left some good details out. So let us know in the comment section. I'll read them, others will read it, and we'll learn more about G.I. Joe because I'm still learning when it comes to G.I. Joe. Well, I sure did love to rub that beard and hair. What is that made out of? I've forgotten to find out. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. As always, thumb up if you like my content, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk again soon.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.